Okay, the chords for Song of Joy, we've worked on the C chord and the G chord. If we look one at a time. For the G chord, bottom two each go down. Now for the F chord, the top two are going to each go up by a step. What I'm doing now with my hands way back, this is not piano technique. This is me trying to let you see the keys and keep my hands as far back as I can. I'm going to come up here. You might see a little better. Top two, up. You're going to want to practice that, and then you're going to want to practice going from C to F. The hardest is from G to F. Here's C to F. Here is G to F. It's more of a reposition, and many people do find that kind of confusing at first. The truth is, anything that's new can be confusing. Once you get it, I don't think twice about that. I can do that in my sleep. And that will happen for you once you've done it. So you do want to overlook, if you have any feelings like, oh, this should be easy already, just be patient with yourself. Don't go too fast. And I'd really advise that any practicing you do, especially when it's new, you go slow enough that you can really focus. So with Song of Joy, I'm going to review the first line kind of slow. That rhythm at the end of the line, you can play it like that if you know it like that, or we talked about that a couple times. Either is fine. You do what you know. Now, line two, the right hand is mostly the same. What happens here is the notes, they're each a step lower than the line above. This confuses a lot of people. It's just different. It's mostly the same, but different. And it can be confusing because even with your muscle memory, once you get one down, your hand's going to want to do that. How do you overcome that? Slow practice, focus, eventually you have it. And that's just how it works. A lot of music has similar parts, similar, different, similar, different. And part of learning is just kind of learning how it is that you remember when it goes here the first time and there the next time. It's just like if you go hiking in the woods, which I love to do, and I'm probably going to do like after this class, sometimes the trail splits and it's not always marked. And like the one trail I like to go to where there's a split, if I go to the left, it goes up to an overlook. And if I go right, it goes further down. It goes out to a field. And if I cross the field, I might sometimes see horseback riders. You know what I mean? It's like you eventually just remember it. You remember if you go out of your driveway to the right, you go somewhere. If you go left, you go somewhere else. That's what this is like. The biggest thing I can suggest is if you're one of those people that expects to get it like instantly and you don't, just be patient with yourself. Try to play slow. The faster you go until you know it, it can be a little harder to kind of get it set in your memory. That being said, the first two measures, that melody's the same as right hand, but the left hand chord is different. You're probably going to need to put a little extra time on that. Instead of a G in the left hand, we have to go to the F. So you'll just approach that as though it were new and keep repeating. Because you're in learn mode, you can slow down and think. Slow down and think. Get the 2 measures down a couple times, and then depending on how you work, maybe add the 3rd measure, or after you get the 2 together, jump to the 3rd measure. It doesn't really matter. You just want to do a little bit of overlap. You don't want to completely skip the middle. Let's start at measure 3. Here's our most challenging spot. Two main reasons why it's challenging, and actually there's kind of a third one. The third one that's a kind of a reason is because it's different than the end of the first line. But the real reasons this is more challenging, left hand moves twice. In one measure, instead of one long chord, you have 2. So that's a little more challenging. The other thing that's challenging is that fast little note. How do you deal with that? How do you fix that when there's a fast little note and the left hand moves? You fix it by knowing both hands and then by going slow and careful, and we can stretch the rhythm out. So here's how I suggest you try that. Make sure you know each hand separately. Before you try measures 3 and 4, you might want to really work on 4 really slow. Now that's going to be beneficial, but there is something that's tricky. Whenever you start at an odd different place, it can be really weird at first because it doesn't sound right. But if you do it a couple times, you will get used to how it sounds. If you cannot do that, go back a little bit. But you will learn piano or really any instrument more quickly if you do learn how to start in the middles. If you always have to start at the beginning, it's going to be a lot harder to get your middles good and your endings good. So for right now, I'm going to model for you what does that look like to start in the last measure there, real slow. First of all, lots of careful thought about each hand. This is a G chord. This is my 2 finger on a D. My right hand thumb goes to a C, and I keep that chord down. That could be your first step. Think of each hand, move the right hand, and stop. If you do that 4 or 5 times, that will start feeling natural. Then you will go to your next step. You'll pause. Left hand ready on a C chord. I'm going to do that without talking with that pause, so you can hear it a couple times. If you go through this, you will get this. You'll get that spot. A little faster. Now that's with sort of the smoothed out rhythm. Here is with the uneven rhythm. That middle C is fast, so you're probably going to get that note better by slowing it down, smoothing it out. Once you know it, it will fall into place however you know it. Okay, that's it for the sheet. I did include for you in one of the PowerPoints, I said this before, but in case you missed it, the last 2 lines of this. Line 4 is identical to 2, but line 3 is different. I'll play that for you now. I put that in because even though I don't cover it in this class, many people want to do that. I think what I'll do is I'll go through the whole thing, and then you'll hear line 3. So if you enjoy that, the idea of that extra little challenge, you can do it. You've got what you need for that. You've got the sheet, and I linked you to videos of me playing that. If you don't think you have time, don't even worry about it. Just do 2 lines. 2 lines will be your quiz. When you play that for me, you can go as slow as you want, and you'll have all the practices you want. Okay, we're going to put this aside, and I need to keep moving here because I want to make sure I get through the pages, the playing pages. And if you have your Alfred's book, you may want to follow with me. I'm not starting on the exercise hand wiggling pages. We did that at plenty of depth, sitting at the piano, finger numbers, page 8, the keyboard, finding notes. Boy, when I'm back that far, I just can't tell if the black's in there. Too much glare, because behind the laptop, there's 3 windows. Alrighty. And then we have isometric exercises. Page 12 is where I'm starting. So if you've got your book, you can follow along. At the top, there is a chart. Chart shows a hand, finger numbers on the hand. It shows placement. You can put your right hand in the middle with your thumb on that C. 2 black notes, don't forget. If that gets uncomfortable, go up to the next C. It sounds higher, but as long as you're on a C, it'll still be fine. Now, what's on this page that we didn't focus on? In the middle, there's a pink box that points to the right, treble clef sign. Probably many of you at some point in school or something were exposed to treble clef, even if you didn't play a musical instrument, maybe in a chorus. Treble clef notes are the higher notes. It's a range, though. It's not a certain number of notes. It's just the higher range. And the word clef means sign. So it's a sign that shows us higher notes. What does it show us? It shows us the pitch name. We have 5 lines. That's called the staff. I don't know if they it kind of says that. It doesn't give it a pink box, but under notes for this position are written on the treble staff. Right to the left, it says the treble staff has 5 lines and 4 spaces. The spaces are contained within those lines. The lines and spaces help us identify what a note is. A note is going to be either on a line or on a space. So if a note is between 2 lines, we say it's on a space. If it's on a line, part of the note goes above the line and part below. That's kind of shown here. I think it's easy to see that. As we get to more of these exercises, I'm not going to be going over 14 and 15 in those theory pages, but when you look there, I think that will make sense. You'll see it's clear. Now, we're not doing all the notes now. We're doing a group of 5 in each hand. So you're going to focus just on these notes for now as you get comfortable with some notes. So we've got that pink box, treble clef sign. It points with an arrow to the actual staff and notes going up, 5 notes in a row. These are quarter notes. They're a note head. That's the oval part. That's called the note head. And it's black for a quarter note. And it has a stem. The stem is that vertical line, like a flower stem. A stem can go up or down. There are reasons for that can have exceptions. Just know this, the stem itself doesn't change anything. Whether it goes up or down, it's the note itself that determines the note. As we get a little farther along, I can talk about the general rule, but we don't really have an example yet that we can talk about that. So we've got the quarter notes. And this exercise at the bottom, I played through this before. You've got 3 treble staffs, treble clef on a staff. You got those 5 lines. At the very end, there is a thick line and a thin line. That's called a double bar. If you have your book and you glance at the next page in the middle, it says double bar used at the end. So the right of the page in the middle. I'm going to play through these each just one time. I'm going to put my hand in position. My thumb is on the middle C. Because we had this double bar line, the two lines, that's the end of the exercise. If we only had one line, we would keep going. Next one. The final one, it walks up, then down. Okay, that's that page. 13 at the top, if you have your book, quarter note, half note. Half note is clear in the middle. I grew up saying it's white in the middle, but because of the pink box, it's pink in the middle. That's because it's clear in the middle. So, oh, I did it again. I said so. Quarter note gets 1 beat, half note gets 2 beats. It's twice as long. That doesn't mean 1 second and 2 seconds or 1 minute and 2 minutes. Whatever the quarter note is, and it can vary, half note is twice as long. It gets 1 beat, or we can call it 1 count. Initially, my experience with beginners, especially in the college courses where we kind of move more quickly than we would for like children or younger people or older people, people that aren't in college where you have to get to a certain place. I find that often people understanding the rhythm, it's not that it's that hard. It's just that when you've got a lot of courses and a lot of new stuff to work on, I find that learning and grasping everything reading in the beginning often can be harder. It usually takes more time. The best way to learn how the rhythm goes is through listening. So if you listen, you will kind of by osmosis get it. Bottom of the page, I played this for you before. I'm just going to play one line. It's Ode to Joy, which is the same as Song of Joy. It's notated with the even rhythm instead of that uneven rhythm that we really hear it. Okay, so we're moving on. We've got 14 and 15 as theory. Page 16 does sort of what we just did with the right hand, but now for the left hand. Chart at the top. Keyboard, hand on the keys, numbers on the hand. Make sure in your left hand that your pinky finger, your 5 finger goes on C. Some people get mixed up and put their left hand thumb on C, which positions your hand too low. Look at the chart. You should be able to see. Make your hand on the piano look like the chart in terms of where 2 and 3 black notes are. Okay, bass clef sign. Bass means low. You know that song, It's All About the Bass? No treble? Bass. That's it, low. Bass notes, lots of power, lots of low, lots of deep. We're starting with bass notes in the middle though. Okay, you've got your chart in the middle. I'm going to play through the 3 examples. You've got bass clefs in the middle that identifies we're starting with the lower notes. For now, it's our left hand. As you get more advanced, your right hands can play low too. And a double bar line. That was walking down. Now we walk up. And down, then up. That's page 16. Page 17, at the top, whole note. It looks like an egg, clear in the middle, no stem. 4 beats. Underneath that is a line of rhythm. They say clap or tap the following rhythm. Clap once for each note, counting aloud. You can try this if you want. I'm going to play through without counting and then with counting. This is no counting. That's a longer note. Whole note, 4 beats. Now, if I count it, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Often when people clap rhythms for a whole note, they move their hands like 1, 2, 3, 4 to indicate that it's holding. Sometimes with people just starting off, if they want to count, it can be a little easier to count a slightly different way. To count the quarters as 1, the halves as 1, 2. I'll show you what that would look like. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. So you can try either of those, or you can just listen and emulate how it sounds. The truth is, if you're going to continue with music, it's kind of a long haul. It's sort of like going to med school, only longer. I started playing when I was 6. And in college, there were people in med school, and I had already been playing like, I don't know what, 15 years, 14, 15 years, something like that. So the point is, it is a long haul. You don't have to get everything at once. What's good is if you understand a little bit about how the music system works, if you can do some of it, even if it's slow, and you can play some songs and you're exposed to it, if you enjoy it, you can continue. Bottom of the page, I believe I played one line of this. Both lines are the same. It's left hand. There's more skips. 2 notes, 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double bar. So those 2 lines will go together. All right. 18, 19 theory pages. I call them thinking pages, writing pages. They're theory pages. We looked up to page 20. Page 20 joins the right hand staff, the treble, and the left hand, the bass, joins together so we can indicate notes with both hands moving along simultaneously. The chart at the top goes over that. They point out treble clef, bass clef, and brace. If you don't have your book with you, or if it hasn't come yet, you're going to want to look these over. A brace is a mathematical symbol. It's used to join a piano staff. That's just what they use. Bottom of the page, we now are going to play an exercise with the grand staff. However, one hand is resting. They indicate the new sign, the whole rest. What that means is when you play physically, it's no harder than playing one hand at a time. But they're introducing the rest. So my both hands are ready in place. Here is the right hand. Right hand's gonna rest. They introduced the repeat sign, the double dots. What that sign means is go back and do it again. I'm not going to do it now. When you practice, you're always going to be repeating. When you see a repeat sign, it doesn't mean like it's like a law. You'll go to jail if you don't repeat. It just means initially they're showing you, they're teaching you lingo here. In a performance, if there's a repeat sign, then it would be expected you repeat it. When you practice, you would repeat it sometimes. You don't really have to repeat it every time because you're going to be repeating every spot where you need to work. So we've covered, I'm trying to move a little more quickly because I want to make sure I can finish this last page plus test out my camera. We have 2 tiny little songs to go over. Page 21. I'm going to send you separate videos for these. I'm going to be posting a new, I don't know if it's a PowerPoint or just a document, but I'm going to be posting a little bit more supplementary material that will go with these Zooms. And as I said, I'm going to be posting the homework to make me a video, and like just a heads up about the upcoming quiz will be Song of Joy. Rock along. We have grand staff. One hand rests, the other hand plays. We play to the end of the first line, and there's only 1 bar line. We keep going to the end of the second line. Both hands are ready. I'm going to play the whole thing through. We've got half, quarter, quarter, half, quarter, quarter. That's our rhythm. 4 beats. If I were going to repeat, I would go back to the beginning, etc. Okay, I'm going to play the first line more slowly for you. Now, when you have the rest as well, you can keep your hands on the keyboard and just not use it. Usually a rest, if it's short, that's what we do. We're ready. But if it's a long rest, you can put your other hand in your lap. It's really up to you. The bottom of the page, we're going to do something with a short rest, and you would want to keep your hand ready. For the long rest, I'm just going to put my hand in my lap. Here we go. 2 beats, 1, 1. 4 beats. Let me play that again, and I'm going to pat the beats. Our left hand has the same tune, but played with different fingers. Okay, so you're going to start working on that. The next one, we have a new rest, a quarter rest. It's a short rest. Let me play you first line, rest. Initially, you're going to want to focus on that rest. You have to lift your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right hand, rest. The second line is a lot like the first line as far as the tune. It's higher in the other hand, but the ending's different. It just goes to 1 long note. So the second line, one last time.